The day Admiral Petra Solano transmitted her final coordinates to the Vrethkai Dominion, every war council in the known galaxy went quiet. Not because she was threatening them, because she was smiling. For 900 years, the Vrethkai Dominion had expanded like a slow fire across the outer arms of the galaxy. Methodical, patient, inevitable. They did not conquer through rage, they conquered through math, fleet tonnage, supply lines, attrition ratios. They had absorbed 41 civilizations without losing a single capital ship. Humanity had been a footnote in their projections, a young species on a fragile blue world, emotional, irrational, dangerously prone to fighting wars they had no statistical chance of winning. The Dominion's war strategists had one internal classification for human fleets: not enemy, not threat, variable. And buried in their oldest strategic doctrines, a single line that junior officers were never taught to question, was this warning: do not reduce a human force below the threshold of hope. A human with nothing left to protect will not surrender. The mathematics change entirely. Nobody remembered who wrote it. Nobody asked why. The standoff began at Kalith Station, a human resupply hub above a scorched moon on the rim of contested space. 43 crew, 3 aging patrol vessels, 1 half-functional defense cannon that had not fired in 11 years. Against them, 7 Vrethkai warships, clean lines, pale hulls, enough firepower to reduce the station to vapor in under 4 minutes. Fleet Commander Orith Soon broadcast the standard surrender protocol. He expected silence, then compliance. That was the pattern, and that was always the pattern. What he received instead was a single voice transmission. It was Petra Solano, commanding officer of Kalith Station, speaking with the unhurried calm of someone who had already finished grieving. "We received your terms," she said. Then a pause so long that Orith Soon's communications officer thought the channel had died. "We're not interested." The Vrethkai fleet held formation, confused. The math did not support defiance, and yet Orith Soon noticed something on his sensor readout that his training had never prepared him for. The humans were not arming their weapons. They were unlocking something else. What the Dominion did not know was that Kalith Station had been a resupply depot for 20 years. And for the last 6 of those years, in a classified hold beneath the lower decks, humanity had been quietly storing something the Galactic conventions explicitly forbade: not weapons, not warheads, proof. Solano's crew began broadcasting on every open frequency to every ship and station within 11 light years, the complete, unredacted record of the Dominion's 41 conquests, not the Vrethkai version, the real one, survivor testimony, atmospheric data from burned worlds, mass casualty archives, the names of species that no longer had anyone left to speak them. Orith Soon ordered the broadcast jammed. But the transmission was not coming from Kalith Station's array. It was coming from every escape pod they had already launched, 43 of them, scattered in 43 different directions, each one a relay node, each one burning its entire power core to push the signal further. The crew had launched the pods before the conversation even started. They were still on the station. Every single one of them. Orith Soon stared at his screens and felt something his species had not documented in 900 years of warfare. He felt outmaneuvered, not tactically, philosophically. These humans had not barricaded themselves hoping for rescue. They had not launched the pods to survive. They had made themselves immovable, deliberately, consciously, so that destroying them would cost the Dominion something no fleet could replace: legitimacy. Because now the broadcast was live, and the galaxy was listening. And 43 human beings were sitting inside a station with no power rerouted to shields, no evacuation route, just no illusions, and they were all looking at their commanding officer like she had given them something worth holding. She had. She had given them a reason the math couldn't touch. This wasn't desperation. This was architecture. Humanity had built this moment, piece by piece, year by year, knowing someday a Dominion fleet would arrive at a place too small to matter, and that someone would have to be willing to be that place. They had planned for a day when someone would have nothing left to lose, and they had made sure that person would not face it alone. Orith Soon fired anyway. The first salvo struck. Kalith Station buckled. Alarms screamed through corridors already filling with smoke and venting atmosphere. Bulkheads collapsed. The old defense cannon, the one that hadn't fired in 11 years, discharged once, cleanly, and took out the lead warship's forward sensor array before the station's power grid finally died. But the broadcast did not die. 43 pods, already gone. 43 signals, still burning. By the time the second salvo reduced Kalith Station to debris and drifting light, 64 alien species had received the full archive. Then 200. Then 900. Within 6 hours, the Vrethkai Dominion's most carefully protected secret, the architecture of 9 centuries of engineered extinction, was embedded in more data networks than any fleet could ever purge. In the wreckage, still transmitting on emergency battery power, was one final message from Solano, pre-recorded, time-delayed, waiting for exactly this moment. Her voice was steady. "You came here because we were small. You should have asked why we were smiling." The galaxy did not erupt in war that day. Something worse happened. It went quiet and started asking questions. The Dominion's 42nd conquest never happened. The war councils convened. Treaties were revised. Old alliances cracked like ice in spring. The Vrethkai fleet withdrew from the rim. In 1,000 different places, the name Kalith Station was spoken aloud for the first time. Some said it like a memorial. Some said it like a warning. Orith soon submitted his resignation and never commanded another vessel. They say he had the station's coordinates engraved somewhere no one else could see, so he would remember them every day. Not as a victory, as a lesson. Because the Vrethkai doctrine had always feared a human with nothing to lose. What they never considered, what 9 centuries of cold calculation had failed to prepare them for, was a human who chose that position on purpose. Somewhere out in the dark, 43 pods were still drifting, still broadcasting, still burning, waiting to be found. Thank you for watching, like, and subscribe the channel.